Parshas Vayeitzei, Tavshin Ayin Vav. As everybody probably realizes already, the shir is coming to you tonight from a bit of a different venue. There was a beautiful Hachnasa Sefer Torah here tonight at Nesivos Shalom of Lakewood. There's a big suda going on upstairs. There's tons of volunteers trying to get this Chinese auction off the ground. I guess not off the ground. It'll be happening any day now. So we got the last minute Chinese auction action going on upstairs. So we have gone down into the lower story of Bikur Cholim here, and you might even be able to hear the bay doors and garage doors opening and closing as we go. But we're here in the equipment room of Bikur Cholim, and there's obviously a lot more stuff going on here tonight than we usually have. So let's get right to the Parsha, and maybe if we have a little time, we'll speak a little more about Bikur Cholim later. The Pasuk says in Parshas Vayeitzei, your children, your offspring should be like the Afar Ha'aretz, Uforat Yoma V'Kedma V'Tzafoina V'Negba. Yaakov Avinu was told that you should have so many children and you should spread out to the west, to the east, to the north, and to the south. And Chazal tell us about this Haftocha that was given to Yaakov Avinu, that this Haftocha was a Haftocha B'li Mitzorim, that it was without boundaries, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Yaakov Avinu that you're going to spread in every direction, and you know what? You're going to keep going in every direction. It's a Haftocha B'li Mitzorim. No limit, no boundaries. This is a bracha to you, Yaakov Avinu. So the Gemara Masechta Shabbos, Daf Kuf Yud Ches Amud Aleph, tells us a similar thing about Shabbos, and the Gemara says the following: Kol hama'aneg es haShabbos, noisnin loy nachala b'li mitzorim. Somebody who is ma'aneg the Shabbos, the reward that you are given is a reward without boundaries. Shenemar, and Gemara brings down a pasuk, Im toshiv mishabbos raglecha, and then we continue, Oz tisana gal Hashem birkavticha b'masei oretz, and what are you going to get? V'hachalticha nachlas Yaakov avicha. A person who is ma'anig the Shabbos, so we bring psukim, and then the Chazal tell us that you'll be zoichet to a nachla b'li mitzorim, you'll be zoichet to an inheritance without any boundaries, and you will get Nachlach Yaakov Avicha. Again, the same idea of Yaakov Avinu, who has a bracha that is without boundaries, a bracha that is just limitless. It keeps on going. Unlike, Chazal tell us, it's unlike Avraham Avinu and Yitzchak Avinu. Because Avraham Avinu and Yitzchak Avinu, their Nachla was a boundary, was with boundary, as the Psukim tell us. Kum hisalech ba'aretz. Again, a defined bracha. That was to Avraham Avinu. To Yitzchak Avinu, kilecha ulzaracha etein es kol haratzoi sohel. And Yitzchak Avinu was told that your children will get the following. Again, a bracha with limits. It had boundaries. But the bracha that you're going to get for Shabbos is like Yaakov Avinu, who it was said, Ufarat Yoma V'Kedma V'Tzafoina V'Negba. That's going to be your reward for being Ma'anig Es HaShabbos. So, frek the Nesivos Shalom. Why is it that only Yaakov Avinu was Zoicha? I understand you telling me that you're going to get a bracha like Yaakov Avinu and not like Yitzchak Avinu and not like Avraham Avinu. Why was it so? Why was only Yaakov Avinu Zoicha to have this beautiful, beautiful bracha of a bracha that never stops, a bracha without boundaries? Why is that so? And why is it also that we find the same thing by somebody who is ma'aneh the Shabbos? Why do we find this bracha of nachala b'li mitzorim? We do not find this by any other mitzvah. So Nesivos Shalom explains, and he says like this: the yisoid of the midah of Yaakov Avinu. You know what Yaakov Avinu stood for more than anything else? The yisoid of the midah of Yaakov Avinu was being makdish all in yonim of gashmias, making things that are really gashmias, regular daily activities, and bringing them up to the point where they can become a chelik of Torah. That is what defined Yaakov Avinu, says in Nesivos Shalom. And we see this in many aspects of our parsha. If you take a look, when our parsha talks about Yaakov Avinu, it talks about Yaakov Avinu sort of doing regular things like Yaakov Avinu, he went out to find the shidduch, he worked for his father-in-law, he did pay him, he didn't pay him, he gave him a different wife, this wife. Yaakov Avinu sort of going about regular daily life, and what he did is he raised the regular activities to be a level of Kedusha and of Torah. Yaakov Avinu saw, as we see in the beginning of the Parsha, Yaakov Avinu saw in his dream, everybody knows, Yaakov Avinu saw a Sulam Mutzav Arza. Yaakov Avinu saw a ladder which was firmly planted on the ground. But the top of the ladder, the head of the ladder, was going up into Shemayim. And Zok Nesivos Shalom, that is a remez to what we're talking about. Because we see that Yaakov Avinu was the one who took things that were firmly grounded, things that were gashmias, things that have everything to do with this earth, mutzav arza, things that are part of the gashmias. But the roishoy magia shamayma, the ladder by Yaakov Avinu, yes, it was planted on the ground, but it represented the fact that you can take regular activities and raise them up to the levels of Shamayim. You can elevate those things to high levels of Avodas Hashem. And that is what Yaakov Avinu is all about. And that's what Yaakov Avinu is teaching us. Kedoshenu, Kedosh Yaakov. Yaakov Avinu teaches us that you can take anything and make it into something which is holy. The Pasuk tells us, it says, Vayikat Yaakov Mishnasei. Yaakov woke up from his sleep. Vayomer, and Yaakov Avinu said, Ochen yesh Hashem b'makoim hazeh. Look, behold, there is Hashem in this place. V'anachi lo yadati. That's what the pasuk says at the beginning of the parsha. Yaakov Avinu wakes up and he says, wow, there's Hashem over here, and it's something that I did not know. Says in Nesivos Shalom, a beautiful, beautiful pshat on this pasuk, and it fits right in to our theme of what we're talking about. Yaakov Avinu, when he wakes up, you know what he's saying? Yaakov Avinu is saying that up until this point, while Yaakov Avinu was learning for 14 years in the yeshiva in Beis Aver, Yaakov Avinu, he's saying, Anochi lo yadati. I did not know that I could raise Gashmias also to such a high level of Kedusha. Because until now, Yaakov Avinu thought what most of us think. Yaakov Avinu thought, you know what? Gashmias is Gashmias, and Ruchnias is Ruchnias. But you know what Yaakov Avinu is saying now? Yaakov Avinu is saying, but now I see, Ochen yesh Hashem b'makoim hazeh. There's also HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there's also holiness, there's also Avodas Hashem in this place where Sulam Mutzav Arza, on this earth where we have to do so many things that are so mundane and are so full of Gashmias. There's Hashem in this also, that even in the Gashmias side of life, there is a godliness and things could be raised to a level of all the way up there. V'roishay magia hashamayim. The pasuk says afterward, the pasuk says, Vayisa Yaakov Ragov. Yaakov uplifted himself. Vayelech arza b'nei kedem. Vayisa says in the Nesivos Shalom, teaches us that once Yaakov Avinu discovered this lesson, once Yaakov Avinu saw that and he knew this fact that everything could be used for Avodas Hashem, then he picked himself up. Vayelech arza b'nei kedem. Yaakov said, I can now pick myself up and I can meet any challenge. I can go anywhere in the world, because if a person knows that you don't necessarily have to live in something, you're not always going to find Kedusha in your life. If you go somewhere else, you could be the one to raise the level of Kedusha and the things that you do wherever you go. Yaakov Avinu was ready to travel. He was ready to go because he learned this lesson. He can go anywhere now. And that is why we ask the question, why was Yaakov Avinu zoiche to this bracha of nachal of b'li mitzarim, of a bracha without boundaries? You know why? Because Yaakov Avinu was the one who expanded the boundaries and capabilities of Kedusha. Until then, we thought Kedusha is only when you are surrounded totally by Ruchnias, and you're doing Ruchnias things. Mida keneged Mida, since Yaakov Avinu expanded the Kedusha, And Yaakov Avinu showed us that it's ever expanding. That is why Yaakov Avinu was zeicha to a bracha of a nachala b'li mitzarim. You too, Yaakov Avinu said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you can get a boundless bracha. And that is the inyan of Hama'aneg es HaShabbos. We said, why is it that only by somebody who's Ma'aneg the Shabbos, also you get this reward, Nachlas Yaakov Avinu, you get the bracha of Nachal b'li mitzarim just like Yaakov Avinu. Why? Zakta Nesivos Shalom, a very important lesson. He says, you know what it says over here? It says, Kol hama'aneg es HaShabbos. It does not say the word Kol hamis'aneg b'Shabbos. It doesn't say, if you read the Maimer Chazal, you read the Gemara, it doesn't say anybody who is mis'aneg on Shabbos. Somebody who has a good meal, gets a good sleep, enjoys himself, has a good drink. These are all nice things to do and things that you're supposed to do on Shabbos. But that's not the point over here. It doesn't say one who gives himself pleasure. Kol ha'ma'aneg es Shabbos. You know what it means? It means that you delight in the Shabbos itself, where you take all of the tanugim that you are going to have. You take your eating, you take your sleeping, you take all the wonderful, peaceful part of Shabbos, and you take all those things that we enjoy so much on Shabbos, and you're ma'aneg the Shabbos. You give all those things also to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, where you extend the Shabbos, not just the ruchnius. You also you're giving your guf also. You give your neshama and your guf to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So you know what you're doing? You're not just indulging in Shabbos. You're not just enjoying the Gashmias. You know what you're doing? You're expanding the boundaries of Shabbos. Now we understand, just like Yaakov Avinu expanded Kedusha, you are expanding the Kedusha now to include your guf also, not just your neshama. So you too, who enjoy the Shabbos in this way, in this holy way, you get a nachala, b'li mitzarim. You get a nachala, an inheritance, a bracha that is without boundaries. And why dafka? Why dafka by Shabbos? The pasuk says, "Ushmartem es haShabbos ki kodesh hi lochem." Shabbos has a certain characteristic. Shabbos has something over other times. There's a special of koyach of kedusha on Shabbos. Ki kodesh hi lochem. Where there's a kedusha that you could do in yonim shalachem. You could do it on things which you normally would do to enjoy yourself. You could take all those things and enjoy them in the right way and give them to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The entire week, a person is able to do tahara. A person is able to reach the level of tahara. But on Shabbos, you reach kedusha. And the lesson, and that's the reason why Shabbos is so great. But the lesson that we need to learn from here is that a person doesn't have to wait to be in a place of holiness. You don't have to wait to be in a high and holy place to conduct yourself in a way that brings kedusha. Every aspect that a person does, whether it's Shabbos, which is obvious, which we just mentioned now, you can take Shabbos and enjoy the things of Shabbos that you love to enjoy. Enjoy the things of Shabbos that you enjoy doing. But why are you doing it? You're doing it to bring holiness. You're doing it to be closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You're expanding the Kedusha, not just for your guf. You're expanding the Kedusha for your guf, but in a holy way. Your neshama, we know, has Kedusha on Shabbos, but you expand it to your guf, and you use that also for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And so, too, every aspect of a person's life, the lesson of Yaakov Avinu is that there are times that we have to go out in the world. And we do go out in the world. And we have to go to work. And we have to do things with our families. And we have to do things with friends. And we have other things to do in our lives. But every single thing that a person does, from morning to night, from the beginning of the week to the end, every single thing can be put in a perspective of Kedusha, can be made that much more holy. And you know what? The Parsha teaches us that a person who does that, you act with the midah of Yaakov Avinu, you're zeicha to a nachala, b'li mitzarim. You're zeicha to a bracha. So it's a beautiful thing that we could all grab onto. Grab onto the Shabbos. Grab onto making every part of your life something which is holy. Because Hashem is telling you, if you do that, I'm not just going to give you a bracha. I'm going to give you a bracha that's going to expand, and it's never going to stop. It's going to go in all four directions, and it's going to keep on going. And we sit here now, that we say, we'll bring up Bikur Cholim again. You see all the unbelievable, beautiful things that Bikur Cholim of Lakewood does, and you see the dedication and the Kedusha that the people do their work with. But I can't even begin to tell you, we don't have the time, I can't even begin to tell you what's going on outside in all these rooms. We should all be zeicha we should all be Zoichataka to take this lesson of Yaakov Avinu.